What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and are you ready to work with these energies? Because you know what, this is a really mixed bag of a week. We definitely have a bit of extremes that are happening here, where we start off on with a hard aspect between Mars and Saturn that are going to be forming their opposition. That opposition is going to be perfecting, but at the same time, well, a few days later, we also get this like it's like this Mercury's going to be stationing direct, but it's like it's going to end on this kind of like hard note, and then on the same day, Venus and Jupiter are going to be perfecting their conjunction, and then we're going to move forward into a better chapter here. So, it's going to be an interesting kind of tale that we're getting into this thing here. But before we jump into that, if you're new here, again, my name is Justin, and one of the things I do on this channel is talk about the Celestial News Weekly, the chit chat that goes on up in the sky, and I'm going to be covering the week. Let's go ahead and switch over here. The week of August 7th through the 13th, 2025. And let's go ahead and get into this thing here. Because like I said, we're starting in red. We got on Venus Day, the 8th of August, we have Mars that's going to be forming that, completing the opposition with Saturn retrograde. And this is happening at 1 degree in 20 minutes. Mars is in Libra and Saturn is in Aries. And so if you're seeing here on the chart here, I have them at here's at 1 degree, 20 minutes there. And this has been a tricky one it's going to be a tricky little time for the cardinal placements because and the cardinal place is going to be Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer, because having these two there, even after they complete that aspect, there's still going to be that flavor there until Saturn moves officially out of Aries and back into Pisces, which won't be until about September. So this is going to be the height of this opposition here. And when you have an opposition is when, as you see, the planets are on in opposite signs, and it'll be in opposite houses depending on what chart where this falls in your chart. And that's something that you want to look at, especially if you have any points around especially the early cardinal signs. We're talking again that the Cancer, Aries, Capricorn, and Libra points. Those are going to be feeling this more potently. But in opposition, you can feel it's almost like a tug of war. You have these opposing forces that are going at one another. And this could be where, because one interesting thing, when I was kind of looking over just the meanings of like Saturn and Mars, and one thing that they both have in common, and they do it in different ways, is this sort of deception, sort of lying sort of thing, where Saturn deals with like, concealments and secrets, where Mars is more of a misdirection and deception. And so this could be like, for example, you get told a certain story and you go to, you take actions based off a certain thing that you've been led to believe, and then you found out that that's not true. The secret's revealed, but then with that, it's too late. There's consequences that happen with that. Now Saturn's weighing down with all this heat, and now we're kind of stuck in this jam kind of here, and it's like going back and forth here. Or I like to even think about, if you want to even put it kind of internally in the body, it's like a fever. And Saturn is hot and dry, Mars is hot and dry, Saturn is cold and dry. And like when you get in a fever where your temperature's up in your body, but you're trying to cool, the second that you try to cool down, you get the chills, and then you're trying to warm up again, but then you get really hot. You're just back and forth with extremes here. And so this could even be where, maybe with all the things that are maybe going on in your environment or whatever's happening, you got one narrative that's going on there, that's needing to move, that's needing to act, and then just feeling this wall with Saturn there. It's a really conflicting energy when we're getting into oppositions, and it can manifest a number of ways. Pay attention to what goes on in the environment. Kind of see what's going on. Be really kind of extra mindful of this day as well. Think before you act, like always. But I think that this is one in particular where there could be some really heavy consequences and things. And this is one where, even though there is all of this tension, that's happening here, can kind of feel like you're being pulled to the limit here. There's still that aspect that's forming. It's 3 degrees away, and when we're even looking at this chart, a minute from being 3 degrees away from being exact here with Jupiter and Venus. So there's something nice that's happening, that's trying to alleviate some of this tension that's happening here. So, and again, look at to see where to even understand us on a personal level. Just look to see where this is happening in your chart. Just for example, with this, if you happen to have an Aquarius rising, well, maybe there's something that's going on, a tension point between what you already know between with this Saturn and Aries, and this need, maybe feeling challenged by other people's beliefs. That Mars in Libra, because the Mars in Libra, having just freshly entered there, it's an interesting opposition too, because they're both in signs that they don't do too well in, Mars being in its detriment, Saturn being in its fall. But if they were to switch places, Mars would excel. Mars would be at home and Saturn would be exalted in Libra. And even interestingly enough, Saturn is being witnessed by Mars. So Mars sees Saturn shenanigans. And this could be where maybe there are, I'd almost even be mindful about, again, that sort of like self-deceptive sort of energies, because Mars could almost even like kind of support that, like, ooh, we can have some, so like, I don't want to paint like a crazy story there, but just pay attention to that. There may be just, and see where that comes up, and just be mindful of how this may be showing up in other people's chart as well. Kind of keep the tension, trying to keep the tensions down a little bit, because I find that this could be one where if we initiate with all this cardinal energy, that it could just kind of get out of hand. So just something I think to just pay attention to when we're working with this energy here. But the nice little thing is that after all this, the dust starts to settle with all of this. A few days later, we get into a moon day, the 11th of August, and now Mercury is going to be stationing direct, and this is going to happen about 12:30 a.m. and again, that's Pacific time. Oh, and if I didn't mention with this one here, this aspect goes exact with the Mars-Saturn opposition, happens at about 7:51 p.m. and again that's Pacific time on the 8th. But now Mercury is going to be stationing direct, and when you have, and it's stationing direct at 14 degrees and 4 minutes of, or excuse me, 4 degrees and 14 minutes of Leo. So if you have any points around that, usually those degrees at the station points are really, really kind of, the stations are really kind of loud points there. It's really kind of signifying like, okay, we've gone this, because this Mercury retrograde, I don't know about for the rest of you, but it was a pretty wild one. lot going on there, especially at the beginning phases of that. But now this could be where, okay, we're the dust is settling a little bit. We're getting ready to move forward again. We're going to backtrack and need to kind of comprehend everything that we just went through over these last 20 some odd days. And now, because we're still in the shadow period of this stuff, as Mercury moves forward, it's going to take the shadow about a fortnight, about 14 days or so before, from the 11th to the 25th. That's Mercury's going to be in the degrees of that 4 degrees and 14 of Leo to about 15 degrees and 34 minutes of Leo. And then it won't completely be out of this whole mess until about September 2nd, when it officially moves into Virgo. So now that we've had this really long stay in Leo, this would be a time to just kind of reflect on what came up in this retrograde. And the nice thing too, then I'll talk about that next. But as you see, the conjunction is less than a degree away almost. So, there's some good positive things now that happen. This could be an opportunity for growth, for expansion. Let's go ahead and move into the last one here, because then we get to, same day. I just want to make a different slide for it because it's just it deserves its own chart. We have Venus and Jupiter forming a conjunction at 14 degrees and 3 minutes of Cancer. And when you think about that, the conjunctions are a fusion of energies, different, where Mars and Saturn were trying to tear things apart and pull things to the edge. Venus and Jupiter now are taking their beneficence and wanting to bring us back together. And it could be, the common thing could be that, yeah, this was a wild time that we've been in. We've been under a lot of really kind of, the energies have been really stirred up, and it's been notable. So now it's just like seeing that there is these shifts that are happening. How are we moving through this together? How do we get to a sense of feeling regulated, not just as an individual, but as a collective, feeling kind of comfortable in our own, in our space, in our experience in all of this. This could be a really healing energy when we're thinking with Cancer, really, because Jupiter is exalted here. And even as this is happening, the moon is, at the tail end of tail end of Pisces here. Its next aspect will be with Saturn, which is kind of meh. But this there's a reception here with the moon and with Jupiter here. This could be just a sense of like, okay, a little bit of relief, like there's a chance to clean this up. And then when that moon actually forms with Saturn, this could be like, okay, let's initiate the cleanup. Let's do the thing, let's get to the action. It's going to take some time. We can't rush this. I think that whatever this healing, whatever this is, Jupiter and Venus are trying to fix. But know that it is something that I think, where if we come together again as a soul tribe, whether it's with your friends, your family, your online group, whatever that is, that sense of community. I think that, because again, Jupiter and Venus, what they really share in common is that union of others, that bringing together of people. They want things, because when things are together, things grow. And I even like something about Venus. There's a strong love aspect, where Venus doesn't receive any sort of particular, thing in Cancer. Venus in Cancer, there's just something really nice about it, And I think it really kind of accentuates the nurturing aspect of Venus, especially those who are willing to receive that nurturing energy, So, I think we could all use a little bit of that, just kind of spreading that around. That's a really kind of putting good vibes out there in the universe. Whether it's connecting with each other more. Not being so cold with one another. Like trying to get out of this thing of extremes here, and just understand that we're all trying to feel through this experience and think through it and work through it all together. So yeah, that's something I think that this week it's going to be an interesting one. It is going to be an interesting one for sure. But I think that it's going to, yeah, again, to just kind of wrap this up, it's just going to kind of help, kind of hopefully move things forward. And I don't think where again there's always, I think the craziness gets a little more hyped up, but there is a lot of niceness that's happening in the world too, that also deserves that spotlight. So give those moments the time too that they deserve. It's just finding the balance, where it's like, okay, there's this stuff, so how can I counteract that? How can I put some more good vibrations out there to make this, again, so that we're not just living in extremes. So I can go on and on about that, but that's basically what I got for you this week there. So a lot to work with. And so again, look to see where the cardinal placements are active. Cardinal placements and the fixed placements are going to be active too. And especially with that Mercury going direct. Let me actually switch back over here real quick. With that Mercury one, yeah, if you have any things, especially around that 4 degrees of the fixed signs, that's going to be Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, or Taurus. Then that station may be working directly with a person. This retrograde has been working very personally with me. For example, it's stationed retrograde on my natal Jupiter placement, and it's actually stationing direct opposing my Saturn placement. So this retrograde for me has been a doozy for sure. So definitely pay attention to that. See what house this is coming up with for you, and you get a better theme of that. And then, like I said, the cardinal placements are lit. If you got anything around 14 degrees of Cancer, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, or Aries, then this conjunction may be working with you more personally. This is actually happening on like a degree away from my sun, so I'm with that. I absolutely welcome that. So hopefully you welcome that as well. And yeah, and let me know in the comment section how this energy has been coming up for you, what has been manifesting for you, and have you been this energy been working with you more personally there? Because yeah, I mean, Mercury's just been talking to just all my planets, it's like half my planets. It's been something, a lot of thinking that I've been doing, a lot of talking too, but. Yeah, let us know how that's been showing up for you. And if you want to see how these planets are in these aspects are showing up more personally in your chart, or you want to plan for any sort of like auspicious days or things like that, and make any sort of like elections, then down in the description box is a link to book a consultation with me. And if you have any questions about the services that I provide, then there's also my email down there, so definitely feel free to reach out to me. And there is a link for both the playlist for this one and for the lunar shenanigans, which talks about the astrology of of the moon, how we feel through the energies each week, what sign the moon's in, what phase it's in, and just when it happens to go void of course, and when the aspects weeks exact, all that good stuff there. So that's available for you. And there's also the series that I do talking about different celestial bodies and different signs and different houses and just my thoughts on them. So definitely go check that out there. They're all under there by playlist. And if you have any requests of any ones that you want to see, definitely feel free to comment and I will let you know when I release that video. So that's available for you. But until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one, Mercury Day.